KJ Wright from the Seattle Seahawks, and you are watching NORBFAM.
What's going on, everybody? This is NORBFAM coming at you with a NORBFAM news report. It's been a while. I apologize for not having been on here in a spell. A lot of daughters volleyball matches happening and been on the road a lot. So I'm glad to be back here on this exciting week. Yes, it is the 2024 draft weekend. Boy, we've been looking forward to this, counting it down, doing all kinds of live streams to see what's going to happen. The predictions are all over the place of who you might pick. And, you know, one of those possible options could be Michael Penix Jr. I'm going to talk about him later and a little bit about the article that he wrote that was published today in the Players Tribune. But before we get to that, I just wanted to just jump in on a couple little other things that have been going on in the NFL world, particularly with the Seahawks. I would love it, of course, if you would hit that subscribe button. That would be awesome. And comment, like this video. It really helps me in terms of the YouTube algorithm. So feel free to comment away, chat with your responses to any of the subjects that we talk about today. But I want to just kind of get into it first. For the live stream for the NFL draft this year on Thursday, it's going to be from 5 o'clock Pacific time, 8 o'clock Eastern. And for the first time in a long time, I will not actually be attending a draft party. I will actually be live streaming here from my studio and joined by my good friend, Pat Svoboda. He's the guy I sit next to during most of the Seahawks games. He's going to join with me, and we're going to kind of watch and break this draft down as it's happening. And I'll be bringing different people, guests on as we watch this to get your reactions to the draft as it happens. So I hope you'll tune in on Thursday to join me for that. Also, we're going to be doing a mock draft Wednesday night to preview the NFL draft on Thursday through Discord, and we've got different people playing GMs for the evening, submitting their picks, and we'll be running them through and doing our own little first-round mock draft, breaking it down, getting your guys' input from these particular Discord members, throwing in their picks as GMs, and we'll be breaking them down and seeing how it goes. And of course, the exciting part will be to see what is prediction for the Seattle Seahawks all over the place in terms of what they might do. But so join me Wednesday night. If you do want to, I think there's still one more GM that we need. Someone needs to pick for the 49ers. So if you haven't done so yet, make sure you check out my Discord and jump in there. You can maybe grab that last spot as the GM. And I'm going to try to get you guys on camera when that happens. So check it out on my Discord. Put that in the description so you guys can look that up. See, the comments are already flying off the table. We got AD, what's going on, man? Thanks for joining. Big Roy Plumbing, thinking we could take him at 16. Talking about Penix or trade back and see if we can get him later. Gridflow says JJ is better. There's a lot of conversation go back in there. Dev Peterson says, I've already subscribed. Appreciate you, man. I know you have, so thank you very much. Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, what's going on? And Sarah, what's happening? Just keep on chatting. Appreciate the feedback and the comments. All right, I want to talk about a couple things before I jump into this Michael Penix article. And the first one is about a couple things that happened last week. There was a lot of talk about what was happening at the Seahawks headquarters at the VMAC. You probably read about this on social media or on the news, but the Seahawks kind of called out because they started taking down some of the old murals and photos that adorn the walls of the VMAC. I've been there several times. I know which pictures they're talking about. There's like the tip, different LOB photos, Super Bowl photos of Wilson and Pete Carroll hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. And there was a lot of kind of people not, a little bit upset about that, ranging from players like Richard Sherman not liking the move, fans with different reactions. I want to just share my take on what I thought about that. Now, first we got to make sure it's clear to understand what exactly was taken down. It is a particular set of large banners or photos that are on a wall in the training facility of the Seahawks. So make it clear that this is not the stadium. This is not the place where fans normally go unless you have access to the training camp. And so it's not like something you'd go to a game and realize, oh, what's missing? It's not like they're taking down the Ring of Honor or pictures that are in the stadium, as far as I know. I think they're keeping all that intact. It's just more something that the players in the building and the staff in the building sees on a daily basis. And so my feeling is, I understand wanting to kind of turn a new leaf. And with Coach Mike Macdonald, starting anew after Pete Carroll living is going to be living in his shadow for a little bit until he gets his own, philosophies in place. He's gotten rid of all the terms, all the slogans that adorn the training facility, as well as the photographs. And I kind of get that. You don't want to have to be lingering. He got rid of the basketball hoop in the press room. I mean, all those things that we've seen for years and over almost a decade and a half since Pete Carroll's been here. And I kind of understand that. I understand wanting to turn over a new leaf and start your own legacy and not have to feel like you've got the shadows of something else, lurking above. And that's why even when they first let Pete Carroll go and they said they would keep him on as a advisor, I thought, what new coach is going to want to have Pete Carroll hanging around giving his 2 cents worth around every corner when they're trying to get their new system installed? Hey, Mike, there might be a good time to put this play in there. I think we got to be really good. You know what I mean? So, we'll try that out. No, that ain't happening. He's not going to be lurking around the building. He's not going to be advisory role. That's just a nice way of softening the blow when he was first let go. Fancy word for fired, as far as that's concerned. But, that's just kind of here nor there. That's all in the past now. But I think that's the whole idea, is that those things are in the past. We're not letting them go. They're also not really taking them down, never to be seen forever. My understanding, too, is that they'll be putting in some digital screens that will operate as, live moving, changing imagery that will be on digital screens instead of these fixed pictures that are just kind of like semi-permanently on the wall. So I think it's a little bit blown out of proportion. If nobody in the press ever mentioned it, I don't think none of us would have noticed it, because unless you walked through the VMAC itself, you wouldn't have actually noticed the change, because most of us are not usually in and out of that building. So I'm sure when we go to the stadium, things will look pretty much the same as we know. Probably a few player changes maybe on the outside, but it shouldn't be too different for most of us. So I like to think that aspect of the tradition, the raising the 12 flag, all those things that we've grown accustomed to, I'm sure all those things will still be there when the games kick back into place. So that's my 2 cents on it. Michael Macdonald, you do what you got to do. Just win some Super Bowls. All right, put that in the plans. All right, moving on. We had a couple of Ryans retire. Today, Matt Ryan, Matty Ice, longtime quarterback for the Falcons, 15 years, announced today that he is retiring from the NFL. So Matt Ryan, sadly for him, never got to get a Super Bowl. The closest he got was a 28-3 lead against the Patriots, and Super Bowl was at 51, and would never get much closer than that. Sadly, we kind of know that feeling when things don't go south in a Super Bowl. But there you go. Matt Ryan retiring after 15 seasons. And then the other Ryan was last week. John Ryan, the longtime punter for the Seattle Seahawks, retired last week. And, one of the things he can be credited to is retiring with one of the highest passer ratings for a player to retire as a Seahawk in franchise history. But he's been known for several famous plays. I want to play just a couple of them here, or like maybe 3 of them. You might remember the one I'm talking about, but there's also a couple that he'd probably rather forget. Here's one right here. I don't know if you remember, this is that ice game in 2015 against the Vikings, the wild card, runs a fake punt and bam, jumps over the pile trying to get a first down and ends up landing on his face and getting a bloody nose out of the thing. That's one of those plays he'd probably soon forget. And then this play right here, another fake punt against the Rams in 2016, running down the field. All of a sudden, whoop, ball flies out, and oops, he gets decked. I don't know what happened. And all of a sudden, it's like a greased pig slips out of his hands, and pow, pow, just goes down hard and doesn't get up from the field for a while. But this is really the play we remember. The fake punt in the NFC Championship game. Rolls left, runs, hits Gilliam for the touchdown to get them on the board for the first time in the third quarter after a miserable start, 16-7. And that would be the play that I think forever epitomizes John Ryan, one of the best punters the Seahawks have ever had. Michael Dixon notwithstanding, because he's pretty darn good too. But John Ryan, great character, some entertaining plays, and it was a solid punter too, by the way. So, but yes, that NFC Championship game, maybe without that play, we never would have made it back to the Super Bowl in 2014. All right, let's talk about Michael Penix Jr. So Michael Penix Jr., obviously the quarterback with the 2 years with the University of Washington Huskies. Of course, I'm a local guy, so of course I follow the Huskies quite closely, and I think a lot of people around the country did not watch him as much as probably us in Seattle did because, well, he was a Seattle guy, and to be honest, most West Coast games don't often get seen by viewers on the East Coast because a lot of times of the time change and things like that. So I feel like not as much attention has been given to Michael Penix Jr. as perhaps some of the other quarterbacks out there. But Michael Penix Jr., did lead the Huskies to the national championship game. They lost to Michigan and J.J. McCarthy, by the way, Michigan Wolverines, falling short of their goal to try to win their only second championship for the Washington Huskies. It didn't happen, but nonetheless, it was an amazing season back-to-back for Michael Penix Jr. So he wrote an article that was published in the Players Tribune today, and I wanted to share that with you in case you hadn't read it. It's a pretty cool article hearing from his words himself. So this is Michael Penix Jr. in the Players Tribune, a letter to NFL GMs. He says, 4 season-ending injuries in 4 years. Mike, how do you reconcile that? In quotes. Let's get straight into it. Chances are this question has come up in your building. You may have even asked it yourself. Truth is, I don't fault you for asking the question. Before I got into this pre-draft process, I always felt I'd let my tape speak for me. Anything anyone really needed to know about me is in the All-22. The tape shows it all. How our team responds to adversity, how we come together, how we execute. But as these 4 months have carried on, I've realized there's more to it than the All-22. This is a big decision, selecting someone to lead your franchise, to wear the name on the front of the jersey with pride, and to make sure every teammate, coach, staff member, and fan can do the same. So it's more than tape. You need to know what I'm made of. This job isn't just about 60 minutes on Sunday, and what you use to judge my fit as a leader has got to include what's outside those white lines. On that, it seems there are questions that you need answered. Well, adversity teaches a man a lot about himself, so I'll share some of what I've learned. I'm a product of Dade City, Florida, population 7,600. No Trader Joe's, no Whole Foods, no steakhouses or country clubs, no personal QB coach, no strength coach, no state-of-the-art training equipment. Nothing about Dade City is luxurious, but that's the way we like it. It's a town full of pride, and a lot of our pride comes from football. We swap out our summer camps for tackle football on concrete in the 95-degree heat. You'll find out quick if you're built for this game or not. I'm thankful that I grew up in that environment. The reason I'm on your draft board today is because of it. Adversity wasn't just a buzzword in Dade City. It was in the water. Nothing is handed to you. You have to earn everything. If you fall, you get up, simply put. To think injuries are the only adversity I've faced in college would be shortchanging my story. I faced adversity even before I got to college. 2 weeks before signing day, I was told by the team I was committed to for 2 years that I no longer had a scholarship. They didn't think I was good enough to play in the SEC. I decided to go to Indiana because Nick Sheridan was the QB coach, and he believed in me from the time he offered me at Tennessee to when he took his position at Indiana. IU had 10 straight losing seasons when I got to Bloomington, 1 winning season since 1994. I knew what I was walking into, but I felt I could help turn the program around. In 2020, we became the 7th-ranked team in the country, the highest ranking the program has had since 1967. We didn't have any drafted offensive players, but we were together, one team, one mission. What we lacked in recruiting stars, we made up for in the collective. We believed in each other. We felt like every time we stepped on the field, we were going to win. Didn't matter who we were up against. That's how we beat Michigan and Penn State and took Ohio State to the brink. Even with that success, I experienced a lot there, from lighting up practice to watching practice on crutches, from getting a shout out from LeBron to being booed in my own stadium, from fourth quarter comebacks to entering the draft portal waiting for somebody to call. Indiana taught me to never take this game for granted. It also taught me that if I fall, I wouldn't bet against me getting up. Finally, Coach DeBoer called. I remembered the success we had when he was my offensive coordinator in 2019. Now, he had just gotten the Washington job, his first shot at a big-time program. He saw something in me that the rest of the college football world didn't. It was not a popular move. First-time Power 5 head coach, and the first thing he does is get a QB transfer who wasn't thought of as a top 100 player in the portal. And so I wasn't promised anything. Not a starting job, no NIL deal, no special treatment. Nothing was going to be handed to me. I was going to have to earn everything. Good. That's what I was accustomed to. I didn't know anyone on the team, but I had to win the guys over. I had to convince them to stay and believe in me, even though I wasn't even named QB1. Washington was coming off a 4-8 season, 108th ranked offense in the country. Morale was low. Frustrations were high, but one thing I saw then, which everyone found out later, was the potential that building had. They needed someone to elevate the situation, help realize that potential. Within a season, we became the second-ranked offense in college football, 11-2 record. Next season, 14-1. Highest ranking since 1992. Competed for a national championship, 10-1 versus ranked teams in a 2-year span. That happened for the same reasons that Indiana rose to the 7th-ranked team in the country. We believed, we fought, and we handled any and every bit of adversity that came our way. Together, we left our imprint on the University of Washington. Today, I look at Coach Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb, remember that name, and Nick Sheridan, the ones that had to make the same decision that you'll be faced with on draft day. They put their belief in me, and I did everything I could to pay it back to them. I look at the guys on the team that I talked to into staying at Washington, who trusted that I was going to elevate them. Now seeing Troy Fautanu, Roger Rosengarten, Jalen Polk, Jack Westover, Roma Dunze, Devin Culp, Jalen McMillan, and Dylan Johnson all on the cusp of realizing their dream. That is what brings me joy. As a QB, my job is to be an elevator. I need to uplift all those around me so that they too can be at their best. So just know, if you put that same belief in me, history shows I hold up my end of the bargain. I hear it all the time. He's been injured. What happens if he gets injured again? Haven't I shown you what that looks like? Haven't I put almost 2,000 plays on tape since my last injury? Since my fourth season-ending injury in 4 years, that's constantly mentioned whenever my name is brought up. Truth is, I'd be more worried if I had never been injured. We don't all come back the same. I can't speak for those that have never gone through anything, but I can speak on me. I've seen how deep my foundation is. I know the storms I'm prepared to weather. For most people, that'd be the end of their story. But there's more to my story, and I own every page of it. This isn't a solo journey for me. There's been plenty of other guys who are cut from the same fabric, who experienced the same challenges and displayed the same resilience. Guys you would have lost money on if you bet against them. Guys like Thomas Davis, who went on to make 3 Pro Bowls after tearing the same ACL 3 times. Guys like Frank Gore, who had a 16-year Hall of Fame career at running back after tearing his ACL twice in college. So I have no problem taking all the MRIs and X-rays you ask of me. Truth is, it's an EKG that will tell you everything you need to know about me. Mike. So there you go. From the words of Michael Penix as published in the Players Tribune today. You can look that up. Just look up the playerstribune.com, and you can read that article for yourself. But strong words. And again, if you weren't here to witness what transformation the University of Washington went through over the last couple of years, it would be easy to overlook what kind of player he was. I mean, I've been watching this Huskies team for a long time, and he's arguably the best quarterback that's gone through this school that I can remember. So it'll be interesting to see, especially when they've got former offensive coordinator of the Huskies, now the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks, the opportunity to marry those two together on the same team. Will the Seahawks take a shot at it? And they're going to have to do it, though, without a second-round pick. Now, I think there's possibilities that could be had here because I've seen Penix all in crazy places on the board. I've seen him go early first round. I've seen him go as low as the third round, like early third. I don't think he'll drop that low. I feel like where it's a safe bet is probably in the second. So there could be a scenario where the Seahawks drop back from 16, get a late first-round pick, maybe a second, and find some way to maybe turn that 16th pick into 2 where they could still snag Michael Penix. It could be possible, but they're going to have to know what teams stand to try to grab him before they do. Teams like the Raiders potentially could be looking. They seem to come up often as a team that could take Michael Penix, but it all depends on how they grade him and what their priority needs are as well. The Seahawks have a lot of other priority needs. I know a lot of you guys are probably saying, we need to get offensive linemen, which is true. We need to get a defensive lineman. That's also true. We need to get edge rushers. That's true. We need to get linebacker depth. All this is true. But it's also one of those things where, if you believe it, getting a franchise-altering quarterback when that's actually within reach without being a team that had to go like bottom of the barrel to get a first, second, or third round pick could be something they could get. And they don't grow on trees. Something to consider as you look ahead to Thursday's big draft. All right. Appreciate you guys letting me read that through to you. So many comments on here. I'm just going to scroll through and see what people are saying here. Gridflow says he was healthy this year and he choked when it mattered. Yeah, didn't have his best showing in the national championship. Let's see, and there is concern about, the injury part aside. One thing that has concerned me is, well, when he's had lots of protection and all day to throw, he dices up the secondary like crazy. But what happens when you've got an offensive line that is barely holding their own? Can he survive that? Can he still make that happen? And that's kind of what happened in the national championship. He did struggle when that pass rush by the Wolverines was relentless, and he definitely struggled there. So, lots of good things here. Christopher Ramey says the new look Hawks are going to be awesome. Penix knows Grubb's offensive schemes. That's one thing I'm excited about. All those pre-snap movements that I would be wowed by watching the Washington Huskies move. Seaflight says the question, how long do you think it will take the Seahawks to go to the Super Bowl? That is a tough thing to ask, not knowing even what they're going to draft and not having any idea of what the team's going to look like with Michael McDonald as a first-year head coach. I think it'd be a stretch to think, well, how often does a first-year head coach take a team to the Super Bowl, on their first time out? Pretty challenging. I don't know if it's ever happened. Has there ever been a coach in their first year take a team to the Super Bowl? I haven't Googled that. It's something I would love to know. If you guys have a chance to look it up, I would venture to say it's probably not happened. If it has, it's slim to none, maybe a once in a blue moon type of thing. But, we'll have a better idea once this team kind of starts to actually play real games and see what we got. But we do have a lot of work to do. We do have a lot of holes on the offensive line to fill, and will these second-year guys step up? Will we get solid year-long production from our tackles? Will Abe Lucas be able to recover from his off-season knee injury, knee surgery that he had done? Will our centers, who's going to be at center? Is it going to be Big Oluwatimi? Is he going to step up and be the guy that we were all hyped about when they drafted him last year? Will these free agent guys that we picked up, who are so many one-year deals that the Seahawks have picked, both on the offense and the defense, Will any of these guys translate into a potential long-term player for the future? These are the things we won't know till they get to being out there on the field going against the likes of the Rams and the 49ers and the Cardinals, although we'll see what kind of team they have. They're drafting low here, getting most likely one of the best receivers in the draft. So we'll see. Marvin Harrison Jr., probably who they're getting. Drew Blahnik asks, can Penix take hits in the NFL? That is a good question. He has been, rattled a bit. He has dealt with some, issues when banged up. He got banged up in that Michigan game. He got banged up through the course of this year, and it seemed to affect his throwing motion. So that's the guess, right? Everyone's just trying to predict what could possibly happen. Jeremy P. Draft Penix and trade McDonald, please. That's pretty funny. Sarah, this could be one of the craziest drafts of all time. Yeah, it is true. Grifflow saying Tua. I think Tua's not a franchise quarterback. There are some opinions out there of Dolphins fans who would weigh in. I'm not disagreeing with you. Gotta be fresh. Says Seattle should trade back 6 to 10 spots, gain some more capital, and try to get Cooper DeJean. Yeah, that's potential. Sarah, I think Michael and Penix fall to day 2. Don't you think, Norb? It's possible. I've seen it happen where both those guys have gone into the second round. I've also seen scenarios where one or both have been taken in the first round, but I think at least one will drop to the second round. I would love to see Michael Penix still on the board on the second round and Seattle actually having a second round pick. That would be just so exciting. The cliffhanger. Seattle drops back. They somehow turn a 16 into a first and a second. They get a good offensive lineman or a D-tackle or an edge rusher, and then they're sitting there in the second, and Michael Penix is still on the board. That would be pretty exciting. That'd be a cool way to start up the second day, just from a suspense standpoint. Saros, I only see Caleb, Jaden, May, and McCarthy are the only QBs to go day one. Caleb, Jaden, May, and McCarthy are the only QBs to go day one. Those are kind of like the easy picks. Most likely, those 4 will be gone. So I agree on that. Yeah, the big question is those fringe guys. Will they be there at 1? It just depends on how desperate these teams are to take a chance on it. Dev Peterson, well, asked, do you miss Pete? Not yet. It's that quiet time where nothing really has happened. There's what's there to miss, right? I mean, it's I'll let you know when we're about halfway through the season, and if we're like below 500, I might think, I miss the good Pete old days. Or if we're destroying teams and suddenly find ourselves at the top of the division, I'll be like, Pete, who? What are you talking about? So we'll see. Larry Murphy says, Pete going to take Washington Huskies to the national championship. Yeah, it's interesting to see what his post-Seahawks career is going to look like, with maybe a little influence there at Washington. Kind of makes sense with them having a new coach as well. It's just new coaches everywhere here in Seattle, as well as athletic directors. It's just crazy the way sports right now is on the move. Henry Hitchens says, my top pick for the Seahawks is Byron Murphy. That's a good choice right there. I mean, you really can't go wrong. There's like 3 or 4 guys you can pick. Fatanu, the edge rusher from UCLA. I mean, there's guys that you really can't go wrong with, and you'd get them, and the Seahawks make that move. You're like, yeah, that's solid. That makes sense. It's just more of that quarterback tantalizing potential move that makes you wonder and makes you kind of think more excitedly. What if they do try to do that? Could that be? It just adds to the intrigue. But the safe, logical move would be to hit offensive line, pass rush, D tackle. I mean, any of those three are going to totally make sense, and nobody would be bummed if they took it 16. And pretty much you take it 16, they're not going to draft a quarterback, at least not one of, in this range. I don't see Seattle being able to take anybody in the second unless they were to shockingly move up by pooling some of their resources together to try to get a quarterback at 2 when they don't have a second-round draft pick. Pete and Bill are both at UW. Yeah, I know. I didn't talk about that. Isn't that wild to think that Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick's paths would intersect like this in a post-NFL world in the college scenario? So wild how things have taken place. Sarah of Dallas Turner is there. You take it. No question. Yeah, there's definitely some surefire bets that you can't go wrong with, particularly an offensive line, D tackle, edge rusher. There's some solids in there. Maybe not the best draft in terms of linebackers. Definitely a good draft if you're looking for quarterbacks too, receivers. But Gary Lewis, what's up? OT all the way. Wants the offensive tackle all the way. Fatana would be great. I mean, he could play any position. It'd be nice to get another Husky in there. Again, I'm doing this mock draft on Wednesday night, 6 p.m. I believe is when we're going to drop, and we're going to be talking about the. We're going to be having a one-round 32-team draft with different people from Discord acting as general managers, submitting their picks, and we'll be reading them live as if it is the draft with a couple of draft experts on our crew, and seeing how that plays out. And I think we're still looking for a 49ers GM rep. So if you're interested, go to my Discord and check out the mock draft for Wednesday, and you could go in there and submit yours and join me on the air if you want to do that. So, that's pretty much it. So, going to wrap this up. Feel free to watch my other videos that are going to pop up here in a second. But again, make sure you hit that sub button, like this video, and comment away. What do you think the Seahawks should do? Should they consider Michael Penix, or do you have another player that you'd rather see? Let me know in the comments. And we'll see you guys on Wednesday at the mock draft. All right. Later, y'alls. Go Hawks.